drivers are on their way. And it's a rather convincing start from Joyner. He's going to be leading them probably. Heading through this bend, it tightens up though before they head on to turn number 8. This is going to be very close.
What is that?
Based off the fact you sound like you sat on a cold toilet seat there, Adam, but that was insane. And Kramer was mega sideways coming out of turn number 8.
That one got me. That one got me.
Look at this conga line. Dun 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 dun. Who was it that came from the? Oh, that was Tolo coming in.
Most racing drivers don't improve because they don't know exactly what to fix. If you relate to that, this ad is for you. Because I have an online course that solves that. It's called the Motor Racing Checklist. 50 structured lessons that show you exactly how to improve your technique. You stop guessing and you start following a professional system. And if you don't improve in 28 days, you get your money back. This is how 11,000 of our student drivers make progress. Now it's your turn.
Hello and welcome into the Weekend Warriors Formula Ford edition, broadcasting live here from Oulton Park. My name is Charles Boshell. Alongside me is Josh Wilkie, covering for Ron, who's had his first Sunday off in about 2 years. Guido Marzucchi in the production hauler, bringing us to sights and sounds for today's race. This being the what we like to call the most exciting day in racing, with a lot of the major, leagues running events today. We've got Monaco, the F1 race, already done and dusted. Indianapolis 500 currently going, and so we're just going to add to that today and bring you a couple of good races here on our Super Sunday with the Weekend Warriors here at Oulton Park. We're on the international circuit, which means we've got the long layout with both chicanes, which is going to make for some very exciting racing. So Josh, how are you feeling about today's race?
Yeah, Charles, thanks. This Oulton Park, probably one of my favorite tracks on the service. I think we're all fairly familiar with Oulton Park as well. It's going to be a blast in this car. You can just sling this thing around this track. This track's meant for kind of hucking the car around as well. It's not an easy track to drive. It's certainly not it's not technical, but it's not overly technical, I would say, either. Although adding the 2 chicanes, I believe, in the layout that we're running today does definitely make things a little bit difficult, and those are going to be some points of contention for sure. Those chicanes, fortunately, those tire barriers don't move. They're basically made out of concrete in this game, and they will rip the side of your car off if you decide to play with them a little bit too close, and that's kind of how you find lap time around here as well. So I think it's going to be a pretty good race, but staying alive is going to be a big part of this one.
Yeah, absolutely right, Josh. I think that we've seen some pretty high attrition rates, especially in the early part here at Oulton Park, but I kind of agree with you. I think this is my second favorite track in the UK behind Brands Hatch. So, I'm sorry, Guido, go ahead and say that one more time. Sorry, I missed you. All right, and let's go ahead and look at today's challenges for the race. The ones that I have today stay within the lines almost. There are a couple places where you can kind of drift over that white line and cut a little time off of your lap. But for the most part, you want to stay on that track surface. The outside edges there, the curbs, and that AstroTurf beyond that makes it very, very difficult with these cars. Secondly, carry the momentum through the chicanes, as you just mentioned, Josh. Those 2 chicanes, yeah, they're basically as Ron would say, they're made with the matter of white dwarf stars, and you're going to hit that tire barrier, and your day is going to be essentially over. Hopefully you don't take anybody with you in the process. And we see the car going wide there. That's the 122 car of Andrew Love. And finally capitalize on others' mistakes. And just like that, you saw Andrew going wide, and you had a couple of guys go by him. So you got to keep those to a minimum. If your other guys, if the other drivers out there take it, then you got to be able to take advantage of it. So we're going to check in on qualifying here. We're about 13 and a half minutes through, 6.5 minutes to go. Mikey Power leads the pack with a 143.4. Andrew Hurd's in second, only about 12 hundredths of a second back. Ed Buchanan in third. Jay Ray seems like a new name here in fourth, and Sean Doyle in fifth.
Yeah, looks like we're going to go on board here into T1. Probably one of the harder corners on the track right there to eye that puppy in. It's really difficult to get that apex right. See, like he pretty much nailed it there too. It's super late. Then left-hander here, pretty standard fare on the left-hander. Although very important to get that one correct as well. It's probably one of the longer blasts to get a draft done. Things can get pretty tenuous into this left-hander here. If you're deciding to try to go side by side, generally not a good idea. It will slingshot you into that wall on the inside. One of the more fun corners here, the right-hander, you can see it's sort of cupped out a little bit. So you can actually get that right-hand tire in there, really get on the gas early. You can really charge that corner a little more than you usually would. And then we're into the chicanes. This is going to be a really, really contentious spot right here. Another spot where, if you're kind of advantageous, you may be able to get a pass done on entry into there, possibly even exit. But, there's a lot of lap time to be found on braking and exit on these two chicanes. And you need to get them right for sure. As we can see, just millimeter perfect there. And then pretty darn good on the left-hand one as well. Another really difficult corner here to get right. Lots of curb on the inside, as wide as you can get it. And then another big, long straight. Well, not really straight. Let's call it the not-so-straight blast here into the sign-up kind of final part of the lap. First part of the lap's really busy around here, pretty technical. And then the second part of the lap, you almost need to kind of calm down a little bit, bring things down a little, especially setting up for this last corner here. This right-hander, very easy to get caught out on. It's sort of right-hander, it goes up, and then as you can see, it kind of starts to fall away, and it's really easy to lose the back end of the car right there. So, you got to kind of bring your heart rate down, slow things down, and make sure you get a good exit for the straightaway here, Charles.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. Good call on that. And yeah, this, as you saw, this is a very technical circuit, as you very well pointed out. Second half opens up quite a bit, but you still have to have a little patience when you're back on throttle and how you manage those corners when you're really up toward the top speed. And I think this time, let's go ahead and check in on our championship points while we have a minute here. Let's bring up, there we go. We have Spec 1, Sean Doyle leading with 641 points. Felix Samoa's in second, 584. That's really tightened up for third. Only 23 points between Samoas and Daniel Tufts, who's had a really good couple of weeks. He's managed to close that gap up. Kevin Adrian in fourth and Rasmus Fiore in fifth. As we roll over to Spec 2, Dan Wicksack still leading with 537 points. Paul Jackson in second. Dustin Meaden in third, and there's a huge gap behind Jackson. Fernando Afonso in fourth, and Fabian Singer is in fifth, with Zippy Salmon in sixth there. As we roll over to Masters, Antonio Reese just stretched that gap out now. 133 points with a little bit of math there over Jeff Wupker. Stevie Ray in third. Look at that on the podium for the boss himself. Jim Brewster in fourth, and Alan DeGassis in fifth. And Jorg Monty obviously is really just kind of taking the second half of the season off. We will say, and we've got on board here with Batonio himself. Great podcast the other day. Has some really great photos from Antonio for the Racing Line podcast. It's each Tuesday night on YouTube. He's currently leading that Masters class. Alan DeGassis in second. Jeff Webber down in 18th overall, but third in the class. So we look at Spec 2. Dan Witzak is leading the Spec 2 class, running 10th overall. Philip Fernandez in 15th. Second in class, Paul Jackson in third and 16th overall. So very tight between Fernandez and Jackson. We're back on board here with Pollard. He's got himself set just at the fastest lap in qualifying. He's now got about a quarter second lead over P2. So we'll see if anybody with the final 2 minutes here is able to wrangle in a faster time on their qualifying and maybe move up.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those tracks there. It's you were saying earlier, it's not maybe the most overly technical track, but it certainly isn't not technical. I don't know if that's a very intelligent way to put that, but you got to get out there and you have to get that lap done, basically. And it's easy to off track around here. It's really easy to kind of over hustle, especially the first corner you saw there. Garcia kind of getting a little bit wide. So easy there to run wide and get an off track. Same thing with this corner here. Yeah, you know, I've heard a lot of people complain about a lot of tracks and off tracks and how difficult they are. This has got to be in my top 5, I think, for for off tracking. Yeah. I love this place though. You know, there's a lot of tracks that I off track at that aren't really my favorite, but I still love this track even though I off track here quite a bit. It's just a fun track.
This is a track that rewards patience and punishes aggressiveness. Because you can really damage, you can end your race, you know, on the first lap, just being overly aggressive, getting offline, because, you know, this is a pretty tight track, even for Formula 4 standards. There's not a lot of racing room out here. You can get 2 wide, maybe 3 wide in a couple of areas, but not really advised, and you do have to be pretty much inch perfect around here to set yourself a quick lap. We did see Jerome Rademacher move up to P2. Over Andrew Hurd, so that's I think another new name that we haven't seen here. Him and Jay Ray, kind of looking down and see if we have any more newcomers here. I think most everybody else as we've seen, you know, during the course, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I've been with Weekend Warriors here off and on for about 3 years. So it's you know, the names kind of stick with you after a while. But still have about, so we're on the last lap. So anybody coming up to the start finish line now, if they haven't crossed it, it is too late. You are done with qualifying. So these are the last of the flying laps here. So it's back on board here with Antonio Reese. It's dropped down to P9 overall, but still leading the Masters class. He's working his way out of Shell Oil Corner, I believe is what that's called. I don't know all the names here, but I know a few of them. This is Islands as we come through. That is that very fast left-hander. That you have to be pretty close on. If you do, as you said, if you go too wide or if you get wide coming out of there, you have a very large tire wall that will stop your progress and your race. As a matter of fact, if you hit it too hard.
Yeah, definitely those tire bears out there. They might look soft, but they ain't. They don't move at all, and they will rip the side of your car off for sure. I found out more than a few times on those on the barriers there, especially on the chicanes. Just how well that does work here, but super important to get them right for sure. You know, 40 minutes out there of executing this track over and over and over again with people around you is not easy. This place is not easy to pass. It's really narrow. It's really fast. You know, there's a really good point you raised there that it's really just you gotta survive out there for sure. Whoa, he almost just caught a little bit of tire on entry there and almost looped it, but he was able to hold on to her. This car is, you know, you get used to doing that in this car too. The rear end slithers around so much. It's a blast to drive this thing. It's always moving. You can kind of use the tire on it. I'd say there's one of the very few cars in iRacing that you actually can use the tire on. You can kind of push it around and slide it and actually catch it rather than it just kind of melting off and looping the rear end. But it's it's a really great car and a really great track for it as well, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think you had some experience, obviously, with driving the Formula 4s with Weekend Warriors. I know they did some geometry changes in the suspension between last season and this season. And how have you felt those changes as far as how the car reacts when you're on track?
Yeah, so that sort of behavior I was talking about, that sort of slitheriness that it had, has kind of reduced a little bit. So it's not quite as loose anymore. And I'd say overall, it just feels like it has a little bit more grip. So you can actually kind of lean on it a little bit more. But that rear end and that kind of slithering, sliding aroundness of it just kind of reduced a little bit. And it just feels a little bit tighter and a little bit grippier now. So I'd say it's an improvement.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So as we're finishing up qualifying here, Antonio Reese making a few extra laps until everything resets. And there it is, as a matter of fact, as we speak. So we're going to bring up our qualifying grid here and get ready to get this race going. Oh, we got a commercial. I'm sorry. We'll take our commercial break and then we'll come back.
6 years ago, This was my simulator. Now, I'm a Radical US champion and IMSA driver. My technique in the simulator is what brought me here. Now, I created the Almeida Racing Academy, a place where members can participate in weekly broadcasted championship races, practice sessions, coaching workshops, and much more. We already have 11,000 students in the academy, and we're growing faster than ever. Our membership gives you everything you need every week to improve consistently and become a competitive driver. So join now as a member, and I will see you on track.
And we're back. All right, now let's get ready to race here. Let's bring up our qualifying grid for the event, and we're going to start on pole with Mikey Pollard. Outside of row 1, we've got Jerome Rodemaker, Andrew Hurds in 3rd, Jay Ray in 4th. Ed Buchanan starts in 5th. Sean Doyle will pick up the 6th position. Soren Garrett starts in 7th. Michael McConnell in 8th. Antonio Reese will get the Masters pole and start 9th overall. And Daniel Tufts will round out our top 10.
And then starting with our first S2 driver in Dan Witzak in P11. In P12, we have Alan DeGassis. In P13, we have Juan Garcia. In P14, Kevin Adrian. P15, Andrew Love. P16, Philip Fernandez. In P17, we have Paul Jackson. In P18, we have Jeff Wubker. In P19, Michael Nelson. P20, Daniel Salmon. And P21st, in the end of the field, we have Russell Tauker.
There you go, and there's our starting grid. And as we're still sitting here, we're going to have a short pace lap. So, Josh, let's talk about the start of this race. What do we need to do, and what do we need to do to avoid trouble here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Beginning of this place, like we were mentioning, really, really narrow. You have to just kind of have your head on a swivel right now. This is not the time. You want a balance of aggression and a little bit of calm as well. You need to make sure that you make these first 2 laps, you find a bit of a groove and the people you're going to race with, and then continue on the race. If you get too froggy right now and you try to go 2 wide, 3 wide through every corner, it's not going to work out for you. I have a feeling we're probably going to see a couple people fall to the wayside because of that, but you just want to be calm and assertive right now.
We go, and there's our key to the start here as we're rounding around. I believe this last corner is called Lodge, if I'm not mistaken, and we're going to get the pace car. He'll be working his way back into the pit lane, and we'll be in the hands of our leader, Mikey Pollard, to start this race off. And there's the green, and we're off and running as we see a little bit of 3 wide action back toward the row 3 area as we have a good run by Pollard coming in, taking the lead there. Rodemaker in 2nd, Andrew Hurds in 3rd, Ray 4th. We work our way through. Looks like everybody's made our way through. Salmon back in the back with a good jump, 4 positions gained. We're working our way down through turn 2 and 3.
Yeah, looks like a few people got a good start. I'm eyeballing. I think it was Tufts in there too. Looks like he got a great start. He's up a couple positions as well. We're still just a massive cars there. That's got to sort itself out sooner than later, especially coming into that chicane we were talking about. That wall of cars is not going to fit through there, Charles.
Trouble in the back, and we've got 2 cars out over in the gravel trap. That's Philip Fernandez, and I'm trying to pick up the other one there. It's Zippy Salmon. So a little mistake made coming out of Island. It was a lot of battling, and Daniel Tufts as well had a great start. Had 2 cars with great starts, and just have kind of fallen back to the back as we have another spin through the chicane. That is Jeff Wubker. Gets the car righted and keeps it off the racing line, able to get people go around as we're back to the front with Pollard still leading the race. Looks like things have started to settle down a little bit now that we had a couple of spins, and early days yet, so these guys in the back are going to have a chance to make up the time unless they've got damage. So we'll see if we see anybody jumping into the pits very quickly for their fast repair. Otherwise, going to continue up here in the race. And we're going to get a replay here, I think, in short order.
Yeah, I'll just get a replay here shortly and see if we can't find out what happened to a couple of the drivers there. But it does look like, we were talking in the beginning, it's about trying to just stay off everybody in that first lap or two. And man, it ain't easy for sure. It's not going to be easy to stay off of everybody around you when you're 4 wide going in. Oh, we have all by himself there. So
yeah,
it's kind of hard to tell. I just peeped that, but it looked like maybe he touched his wheel in the grass, Charles.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. I think that right rear got in the grass and just lost control. And I think maybe Tufts was just, I don't know, I think he was a little bit further up. So maybe that was a different issue. He's coming around the outside dodge, just too far wide coming in the shell. Yeah, absolutely.
Just out of line.
Yep, out of line and just not quite able to get that car stuck around the corner. Saw the wheels lock up. Back on board here with Pollard, back up, and you see the gravel being brought on. We didn't even talk about that. Oh, no! And that's Pollard around.
From the lead, he's going to get smoked. Horrible spot for that to happen for sure.
The other car involved in that, but that was Pollard, and he just basically got wide on the edge of that corner and got in the grass and lost it, just as we saw earlier with Tufts, or I'm sorry, with the other driver, Buchanan, maybe. So you saw that.
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, so you saw that Buchanan, I think, was involved in that, and he's already towed back to the pits. Pollard, I think, is towed back to the pits as well. He has indeed, and we're just going to get another replay here. It's coming out of Shell Oil, and just a little too far over into the gravel, or over into the off the curb and into the grass.
Yeah, looks like we're going to see Buchanan here, just nowhere to go. Yeah. Nowhere to go there at all. It's really not much you could do. Even if he hit the brakes, don't think it would have mattered, but that was lap 2, Charles, and I'm imagining, it takes probably 3 to 5 laps to get these tires really, really, and there it is. There's a little bit of debris as well there. I think he probably picked those up, a few things happening at once there. Bit of debris, went a little bit wide and got on the gas with some cold tires. Yep. All of those things kind of coming together just made it happen, I think, there. Yeah, it takes a few laps, but looks like we're going too wide again here.
Yeah, it looks like it. We've got Rodemaker and Hertz up there front battling for the race lead now that we've got Pollard in the pits, and the 69 car Rodemaker out front. Hertz following in very closely. Ray is in third, Doyle in fourth, Soren Garrett's in fifth. So we're going to have a pretty tight battle. It was pretty tight as far as qualifying was concerned anyway. So now with a couple of the front runners off in the pits, it might be a very, very, quite a good battle here up front to see who's going to get this race win.
Yeah, you're right, Charles. With some of the usual players kind of missing there, we'll shake things up and provide some opportunities perhaps for some other drivers. We do have a couple new guys up at the front of the field here as we're seeing Kevin Adrian lose it. I kind of missed that one, Charles, if you want to take that.
Yeah, but same thing. It's just in the grass and losing the rear of the car. We've seen that already 3 or 4 times as we see Telker there on the outside. Just way too far wide coming into that corner and just couldn't hold it. Couldn't carry enough speed. He's off in the grass, but able to recover it. No damage done. I will say, I'll go back to that Pollard incident with Buchanan. You could see in the replay the front tires locked up. He was desperately trying to get that car to stop. So it's not like he was just letting the car roll across the track. He was actively trying to get the thing stopped so the cars could get around. But as you said, just nowhere to go for Buchanan is, in his racing line. And just, by the time he got around there, he's, the next car at the scene of the accident. We're on board here with Daniel Salmon. Zippy, let's see what we got here. I think he may have had damage from that earlier incident. I think he was trying to hang on and not have to come into pits, but that just kind of looked like there's maybe an ill-handling race car. As we're back to the front, Rodemaker still hanging on to that gap, only about 0.2 of a second between him and Hertz. As you see the gap behind the pack closing it down. These cars, as we said, draft, okay, not the greatest in the world. But you've got some pretty quick drivers back there that are chomping at the bit to get up closer to the front as we're working our way down the grid here. Got Adrian and Michael Nelson, and then back up to the front. You've got a host of very quick drivers back there behind this lead group. Antonio Reis up to P5 now, started around the bottom of the top 10. Michael McConnell in 6th. Alan Degas is in 7th off, and then Dan Witzak, Sean Doyle, 8th and 9th. All of those cars were capable of winning this race from where they are. So this is going to be a very, very challenging race for Rodemaker, a fairly newcomer to the scene as far as I know. He's going to have a tough time battling with some of these regulars that we've got out here today.
Yeah, for sure. Like I was saying earlier there, it's 40-minute race. We've still got quite a bit of time to go. Holding it together around here and not making any mistakes is really difficult, especially when you have 4 or 5 cars breathing down your neck there. Loving the old MTV lever. He's going to show his nose again here. So Hearn's just almost every corner I've been watching here, he's popping out and showing him his nose. That works, but if you do it every single corner, every lap, you start just kind of not paying attention to it anymore. So you definitely want to pick those. You want to pick those battles and make sure that the person is actually scared that you're going to try to pass him, as we see Garrett's here giving a little bit of pressure to, I believe that's Antonio Reis there in front, and he's definitely getting alongside here. Oh, was
Yeah,
it Reese?
and-
Okay, Reese, I believe, just overtook Soren, and it looks like Soren's trying to get that one back. May have got it done there.
Yeah, absolutely. Soren gets that spot back, still hangs in fourth. Antonio's in fifth. McCall in sixth as we're back up front. And I kind of agree with you. I think the bigger thing for me is we're talking about showing your nose as we get a replay here. This is Jeff Wubker. Again, looks like this is in Lodge. And just a little bit, and then loses that car on the curbs on the outside and nose into the wall. And the nose is now
worst
gone.
on that one.
So that'll be Wubker into the pits for his stop. We're still at the 8-minute mark. We are approaching the point where the pit window will open for these cars, usually around the 10-minute mark, depending on the track size and how much they're having to be on throttle. Usually the shorter tracks where you're more technical circuits, you can kind of get in there a little bit earlier. So Wubker, depending on how long he's going to be in the pits, may be able to finish this with this pit stop only. We'll kind of keep an eye on that and see if he can allow him to make up some positions going forward. Otherwise, we'll stay focused on the front. And as I was going to say, with Hurds looking to the outside there again, is at some point you start sticking your nose out to try and find that, and you're getting off of the natural racing line. And once you once you start making those moves like that, we're going to get a move to the inside there for Hurd. No, just not far enough. It makes it difficult to get back on that racing line and hit your apexes properly. Once you start kind of running those alternate lines, and you kind of get yourself screwed up a little bit if you do that lap after lap.
Yeah, I think, man, I tend to agree with you there for sure. It's, I think he's probably doing it, A, to put a little bit of intimidation on the car in front, and then B, just kind of close the door as he's finally going to make the move on the inside here through the kink. We were talking about this before. You're going to get hung out to dry. There isn't room for two cars through there in any form or fashion with any speed. Anyway, you have to slow down for two cars to make it through there. We just saw that happen. So it looks like he did get hung out to dry. He lost 2 positions because of it, but it's also slow for everybody. So now Taco Bell car's right up on the butt of the leader, and we're going to see it here. It looks like he's not going to... Oh, nope, maybe not. Back to Salmon here. I think Salmon's about to have another incident, unfortunately, in T1, off track, and that's about it.
Yeah, and that's about it. And yeah, it was a great pass by Hurds, forced the issue. And I think Salmon says, you know what? Yep, I'm finished. So takes it into the barrier, and I think that's just a frustration crash. But Hurds was able to get that move made and brought Ray with him. So heads up play by Jay Ray there to take that position after they got Rodemaker offline through Island. And as you said, yeah, very difficult to make a move there, and it's just so fast. And once you get on the outside, you're kind of stuck out there, and you have to just kind of lift. So we're back on board here with Soren Garrett, still in front of Antonio Reese, Michael McDowell, Alan Gassis. A little bit of a gap back there to Sean Doyle running in 8th. He's got Dan Whitsack in tow, and I just saw somebody flash in, and that is Dan Whitsack. So pit lane, I think, is now officially open. So we're in our pit window at the 10-minute 40-second mark. So Dan Whitsack's going to try the undercut and see if he can get himself some clean track in the back and run a few hot laps and see if if he's able to maybe pick up a couple of positions or gain some time on those lead groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Around 10 minutes or so is when the pit window opens for these things on most tracks. It's about 10 minutes. That 8:40, I think you could probably save the gas. You probably save the fuel, depending, but that's going to be a pretty close one from that early pit stop. But yeah, around 10 minutes, 11 minutes is usually when it opens. I generally like to kind of run my tank pretty dry. You get a bit of pace out of it. But of course, there is some strategy to be had here as we take a quick replay here of Juan Garcia going into that kink again. And a little bit wide, touch the outside, and once you're here, you're just basically, it feels like you all of a sudden picked up 4 cabooses and they're pushing you into that wall, and there's just nothing you can do about it. You get on the clappers there, and you're just like, okay, I'm not slowing down, and then boom, you're in the wall. But he actually did a pretty good job to keep out of it there. I probably would have ended up in the wall.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the off-track physics have absolutely helped as well. Because that gravel trap will actually slow you down a little bit, but I do have very, very bad memories of putting GT3s into that wall at about 130 miles an hour or so as you're coming out of Island. So completely understand, but yeah, I did a good job of keeping it off the wall. did get a little help from the gravel and was able to keep himself out of that tire wall because that would have been day done. And so he will be able to join that back in, a little further back, lost himself some time. And that was Garcia, right? So, yeah, he's still running P10. So he's not out of it just yet, but obviously you'll have a little bit of time to make up. Oh, as we see Hertz go wide and coming out of turn 3 and is able to get it recovered before we get into Island, but lost those positions back. And now we've got Jay Ray up front leading the race.
Yeah, he's going to give up that position there again. It's it's a game of errors out there for sure, and that's a pretty big one there for wins. Unfortunately, all that work gone now. He's behind that MTV car again. Great livery, by the way, the Roland Ratsberger throwback livery there. Gotta love that thing. I actually ran that for a little bit before I got a super duper cool Adam Thompson paint for my rig. I was actually running that one too. Oh man, it almost looked like the Taco Bell car there. I'm not sure if that was Wiggly's under braking or what that was there, but that was a pretty close one. So, another thing you want to think about too, when you get another car in front of you, a new driver in front of you, you have to kind of start figuring out, okay, where's he going to brake? Sometimes he's going to brake a little differently. Everybody's a little different out there. You have to kind of get a read of the car in front of you, and it looks like maybe almost tripped over himself there.
Yeah, almost tripped over himself, but able to hang on to it. No contact made, and now Ray out front. He needs to make a run for the border in that Taco Bell car and see if he can get himself a bit of a gap back out there behind between himself and Rodemaker and Hertz, who obviously all three have shown some pretty good speed. They are starting to kind of pull a gap on Soren Garrett's in P4 as we're on board here with Andrew Love. He's working his way, and I think that's a new number for Andrew. I think he's normally in the 845 car, something like that. But I think he's also off the track and lost a couple positions there as we cut away and back to the front. And still, but yes, the gap between Herds and Garrett's has now. Yep, there's Andrew Love in the pits.
Bummer.
Yep. So I'm going to say that there was maybe something more catastrophic that we did not get to see, but he has towed back, and we're going to get a replay here. So we're working our way through Shell Oil. On his way out. I think that is
another
exact
victim of the paint. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit surprised at how many people are getting caught out by the exits. I would have thought it was going to be entries into the chicanes or something like that. It really isn't something I should have brain farted on, because I've had a lot of trouble in that area as well. It is a really, really high speed area that you're kind of trying to extract as much time as you can out of, and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I think maybe something I learned from the VRS tutorials in this car is to apply the throttle smoothly. Sometimes you want to just hammer it down, but sometimes you have to apply that throttle smoothly. And I would imagine if on that exit, you're just kind of bleeding the throttle in, you're not going to get quite so many spins on exit there. But I think maybe the debris and, a little bit of other things there kind of rearing its head today.
I was going to ask that as because, obviously you drive this car quite a lot more than I do. How much does that debris on the outside of that corner, if you're on that wide line, how much does that interact with your car during braking and then throttle?
Yeah, it really does. It really, really does. Like, more so than you kind of want to give it credit for. If I could put a finger on it, it sort of feels like a floor that's dusty, kind of underneath you. So all of a sudden, you just kind of lose a bit of grip in a very strange way, but it's definitely there, and it sort of sticks with you too. And I think that's why we're seeing it on exit, because you're coming into that corner, you're picking up some debris, you're getting a bit loose, and then you get on the gas, and that debris just is underneath your tires still. It's still there, and you're a little bit on the paint as well. And looks like Andrew Love is going to take us into the corral here. Nope.
Yeah, I think he was looking for the exit.
Yeah, he's out of here.
Yeah,
it's out of here for the day. He's looking for hot dogs or something. But yeah, the debris definitely does, Charles. It's definitely a thing in iRacing now, for sure. You do feel it.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see it on our screen. I think that obviously we've already had a couple of drivers into the entry there for Shell Oil, as well as on the outside edge of that, bringing gravel back on, as we got a battle here for the lead between Ray and Rodemaker. Really tight coming out of that second chicane on this not so straight, as you called it earlier, working the way down into the final couple of corners. As we're going to get this right-hander here, just once again, just tiptoeing through there to carry the proper amount of speed. And we'll get this little short run down here into Lodge, the final corner, which is just, for me, it's just so difficult here because you've got elevation changes, you've got cornering, you got to try and get back on the throttle as you're going downhill, which just kind of throws everything off. There's not really any support, from the track to try and help you get around the corner. So it makes that very, very difficult. Unlike what the corner we were talking about earlier, Shell Oil, which feels like a NASCAR corner. It's got so much camber in it. Just as you said, you just want to just fly around there because you think the track can handle it. And a lot of times it can't. We're coming our way out of turn 3 here on this run down into Island, as we're going to get a replay here. This is Daniel Tufts coming through Lodge and coming out and way wide and then back on.
Big off track.
Yeah, big
so
off track. Yeah, that's how you have to, and that's kind of how you have to handle it. You just got to basically just kind of straight line that outside edge and just floor it and just hope for the best as we see him coming through that first chicane. Oh, he took all of that. And there we go, another battle. He's going to take to the fence.
He was in his mirror on that one, I think.
Yeah, maybe so.
He was in his mirror a bit on that one, I think, out front. You can kind of tell by the way he entered and exited there. It was a bit ragged. He's worried about that car behind him in the MTV machine there. He's a little bit worried about it, I think, going into that corner. That was a good point that you raised there about the grass. I believe we saw it was Jeff Wubker earlier went into the grass, and the mistake he made in that area is that he sort of panicked and stepped on it right away, and it's really easy to do that because you're like, oh no, I'm losing more time, I just lost time 3 times and now I'm losing more, and you want to get on it, and the reason he looped it is because he stepped on the gas. What we saw in Tufts there is he just rode it out. You just ride it out. Just take the grass. Just don't worry about the grass. Don't worry about your off track. You've already got it. Just, take the best and easiest line you can, get back on the track and keep going there. And as we see the leader pop into the pits here.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Ray and Hertz both into the pits, as we were going to talk about the fact that this front 3 had become 5. With that battling up front, it allowed Garrett's and Antonio Reese to make up the gap and jump into that lead pack. And so now those 2 cars have pitted. We're going to see what their pit times are as we're following the leader, Rodemaker, around coming out of 3, coming down into Island and Shell Oil. With Garrett's and Race in tow. Antonio Reese just at the fastest lap of the race with a 1:43.5. So obviously not the best qualifying, but he's absolutely got the race pace to hang up here. As we're coming out of Shell Oil, looks like everybody gets through there cleanly again. You can still see that gravel off to the side. You get that slippery surface warning flag as you get somebody coming out of that. So the next couple of laps, but then as cars come through and kind of clean the track a little bit, you stop seeing that thing, and so you'll get that for a lap or 2, and then it cleans itself up as cars come through and or deposit more, one or the other. Sometimes that happens as well. As we're on board here, and this is the Taco Bell car
didn't go so well there for I believe that's Jay Ray. Didn't go so well for his compatriot there. Looks like he's about 2 seconds slower in the pit stop of Andrew Hurd there. So I believe it was about a 47 full pit time to a 45-second full pit time. So bit of a gap there between those 2 now, not executing that pit stop quite as well as perhaps he could. And that's a big one, in these things as well, that I screw up every single week. I screw the pit stop up pretty much. I've been one of those people that relies on their calculator to do it for them, and man, it just screws up every week on me. I'm getting taken too much, not taken enough, and it's just something I haven't really brought into my kit yet. I really do need to for next season. Next season, I'm going to put my nose down and try to do a little better here and start calculating my fuel every race, because man, the pit stops, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you definitely win or lose a race in there for sure, Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's 2 seconds per gallon or something like that. So if you add an extra lap or 2 of fuel, that's going to cost you 2 or 3 seconds on track, and that may be the difference in your results. And I will say this, as we're still following on board with Kevin, with Alan DeGas's Michael McConnell. Alan DeGas I believe, got past Michael McConnell's now up to 3rd overall. Second, of course, in the Masters class behind Antonio Reese, who's up at front, chasing down Rodemaker. But I will say this is, looking at the time, we had Soren Garrett's come in, and his stoppage time was 15.3. Kevin Adrian came in earlier. His was 14.2. both of and as well as Witsack at a 14.8. Both Herds and Ray were in the 23-second range. So Herds obviously had a little issue either coming into the pits a little slowly or a little slowly out. But both those guys were stopped much longer, so they've basically kind of cleaned themselves out of contention for this win. Just from the fact I think they're going to lose an extra 8 or 9 seconds on track because of that long pit stop.
Yeah, I think I'm noticing the same thing here, Charles, and producer just piping in there. Maybe he took a tire or two, or perhaps not exactly sure what lap they came in on, but as we were saying before, obviously if you came in a little bit earlier, you're taking less fuel, it's going to be a lot less time in the pit, whereas the other two were a little bit more fuel perhaps and more, but I don't think it could be that much more like you're saying. I think those are two kind of poorly executed pit stops, and we're about to see them get jumped, I think, is right. Like you're saying, Charles. I think they're going to get jumped by a few seconds, or at the very least, depending on, again, how the current leaders here handle their pit stops. Obviously, we'll see how that works out, but I think they bled some time in the pit for sure, Charles. Good eye.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's exactly right as we're on board here with Michael McConnell, currently still running in 4th position behind Alan DeGassis. And we've got the 23 or 23 and a half minutes in, so we've got another 7 or 8 minutes for before everybody's going to have to come in and get their stops completed. So that'll be when the rubber meets the road. As we're back on board here with Rodemaker, Antonio Reese right behind him. And Reese is in a good position here. He gets a good pit stop. This might be his race to win. It'd be great to have a Masters driver on the top step of the overall podium today, but we won't count our chickens just yet because obviously we've still got quite a bit of racing. There's 16 minutes left to go as we're back on board with this second pack here. DeGassis, McConnell, and Doyle. Doyle hanging in there as well. He kind of looks like he's maybe antsy a little bit. Maybe he's looking for a way to get by McConnell there. And he's just taking a little bit different line than the 2 cars up front. So I'm not really sure if he's looking to get by, or if he just feels a little more comfortable running his own line, which, some people are like that. But we'll continue here with this as we see, Doyle coming in. I think he's decided I'm going to come in and get out from behind these guys, and get my pit stop done, and then I'll come back out with some clean air. Maybe I can leapfrog him during the pit cycle. So not a bad strategy call for Doyle there as he's in the pits now. And we'll drop down the order as he's getting his stop completed. We're back on board here with Rodemaker and Reese up front, still leading this race. 25-minute mark. Rodemaker running good. He's done a great job. Obviously, as we said, as I said earlier, I think one of the first times I've seen him out here on the track, but it's having a good run.
Yeah, he's having a really good run. I think maybe I peeped his livery there a couple weeks ago when I was in a race. I remember because I used to run this livery. I remember he was up in front of me, and I was like, hey, there's that MTV livery. I'm not for sure it was him, though, but it's really good to see him out there for sure. We got a couple new guys right up at the front here, actually, and it looks like I was just watching that pit stop. I believe it was from Doyle. He put in a 21.7 pit time and an overall 43.4, which is actually kind of strange considering.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's still a little bit slower than everybody else, but that overall pit time for him was horrendous.
Yeah, it really was. I was just kind of looking at it. So we see a kind of a couple alternate pit strategies. I'm not sure why. We've seen a lot of the drivers in the 14, 15 second range, and we've got some of the drivers in the 20, 22 second range. So it is a little bit odd, and it could be, some of these guys, obviously, Rodemaker, when he comes into pit, we're going to see if he's got his eye on the ball, and he knows that when he's going to pit or when he's what he's going to do in his pit stop, because obviously, special rules here. The official races don't have pit stops, so this is kind of foreign to people who aren't normally running these events. As we got McConnell in the pits now, he's relinquished P4 overall, so he's going to come in. He's behind. He's going to come out probably behind Garrett's, if I have my guess, but that's going to be the one that we're going to look at because Garrett's was in that battle with them earlier in the race. So we'll see how this all lines up here. It's like Garrett's is going to get through. McConnell's still on his pit exit. He's going to come out just in front of Dan Witsack, so he's going to come out in P8 and in a pretty good position. He's got about 3 seconds to Garrett, so he's going to have a little bit of work to do to get back up there.
Yeah, it looks like, looking at those pit stops again there, they definitely are jumping all over the place. So, it's like I was saying before, it's not just about getting stopped in your box either. It's about getting slowed down for those cones and then getting sped back up for the cones and making sure everything, and the whole thing just has to be executed correctly, as we see Juan Garcia just asking a little bit too much of his tires there into that cupped out corner. All that debris, you can't tell me that's not playing a bit of a role there for sure. We've seen a lot of kind of sketchy moments in and out of that corner there, and I would imagine the debris is why that's happening. But back to the point, looks like we got, I'm looking down the pit times here. It's like 15 seconds, 14 seconds, and then 23, 21. So, yeah, they really messed up their pit stops there up at the front earlier, and I think they're going to get jumped for sure. Not only were they in the box longer, but their overall pit time was longer. As we see, I believe Reese jumps in there, and Rademacher stays out again. He's got to be running on fumes right now.
Yeah, he's got to be really close to the end here, as we've got DeGassis and Reese both in, our two Masters contenders, in the pits now for their stop of the race. And Rademacher still continues to run out all by his lonesome now. He's got an 18-second gap over Daniel Tufts, as Reese has left him out there by himself, and he's in with DeGassis. So now it's Rademacher is going to have to just keep his hammer down. Obviously, when you're out there by yourself, sometimes you kind of just let off a little bit. Your lap times kind of slow down a little bit, and because you're, you don't have any pressure, you're not chasing anybody. So we'll see if that plays well for Reese. He comes back out in P5. He's behind Garcia, who I think all the lead four drivers, Rademacher, Tufts, Jackson, and Garcia, all have yet to make their pit stop. As we see that, thank you very much, Father Guido. Brings up our graphic, and you can see that you have the top four who have yet to make a stop. Rademacher out there by himself, Tufts, Jackson, Garcia, and then the first of the pit stoppers is Antonio Reese, and he's got about a 1 second gap over Soren Garrett. So he's able to get out there, and we get a battle here between Garcia and Jackson coming down into that second chicane. Garcia able to stay out front. Jackson laying it on him, trying to keep the pressure up, see if he can force him into a mistake. This is one of the two close battles on track, as we've got Garrett's now closing the gap down to Antonio Reese. The gap's down to half a second. Sean Doyle is only 3/10 behind Jay Ray, and so that's going to be a battle here as Rademacher comes in for his pit stop. We'll see if the remainder of the drivers do, but this is our lead driver. As we see Daniel Tufts come around, and he's coming in. Yes, he is indeed. So we're going to see where Rademacher comes up. Oh, that was very close there.
That might have been an overspeed. Let's hope
yeah.
Not, but it looks like maybe he got it. Actually, it's pretty forgiving. I think he'll probably be okay on that one, but he's definitely out there trying to make some positions up, and it looks like he has. He's going to come out in a fairly good position here from that early incident he had in the race. He's put in some pretty good laps there, and it looks like he's got himself easily into the top 10 here, I think. We should see here shortly whether or not he's going to be able to, but Rademacher there with a pit stop as a 36-second full pit lane time there, so
yeah, way
out ahead of the other guys there, no problem. Tied his compatriot there, Antonio Reese. We got a 36.2 versus a 36.25, so they're going to come out right beside each other again. So we still got a race here at the front, but those two just behind him really messed up that pit stop, and they're paying the price, man.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see there, we got the battle here between Jay Ray, Sean Doyle, Kevin Adrian, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Doyle hanging on to the P7 position, but Ray is starting to put the pressure on him. And the gap up front, now that Rademacher is back out on the track, 1.2 seconds over Antonio Reese. With Soren Garrett's in tow, only 3/10 of a second back, so that might be a battle here. We're going to have to see what Rademacher can do in the final 10 minutes or so of this race, or if Antonio is going to be able to close that gap down. It just depends on how much Garrett wants to fight him for P2. This will determine whether these guys are going to be able to get up there to the front and maybe battle for the win.
Yeah, absolutely. These wee hours of the race here is when you make your big bucks, or when the big drivers make the big bucks for sure. You have to be able to execute right to the end. Soren Garrett's putting some pretty serious pressure on him there for sure into the last corner. Not sure that was intentional, actually. I think he was trying to get woed up and maybe just went a little bit deep there, but yeah, this is when you kind of, the tires are getting a little bit old, depending on whether you change them or not. I don't think anybody was able to change tires. You take quite a bit of a time penalty for that one. But yeah, this is getting a little bit loose, and he caught it up the inside here, and it looks like we are side by side. We'll keep a hold on this for a moment. Yeah, you know what? They're side by side. You're never going to be able to get through here side by side, but they did it. They did it side by side. It's never going to be as quick as it could be, but looks like he got that pass done. And then into the nice cup out corner there.
Yeah, and I think Ray just basically backed out going into show. Well, I don't want to be on the outside of this. Let me just go ahead and let him take this position. We'll fight this again later. We got other things. We got other things to do.
Yeah.
Besides that, as we're on board here with Dan Witzak, is up to P6. Leading the S2 class, so he's had himself quite a good run. He's up 5 positions during the course of the race. As you see him just taking all the curve there, going through the chicane. He's right behind Alan DeGassis, who's running 5th. So he's having himself quite a good run, as well as DeGassis is having a good run as well, running up in the top 5. I will say this: I did hear Guido mention something to us earlier that the looking at a few drivers that are pushing the incident limits for the race. So we're going to keep an eye on that and see how that works out, because obviously 13X means a drive-through, 18X I think or 17X means a disqualification. So you got to be very careful here, as we've seen lots of drivers kind of take the alternate lines and expanding track limits there. And so we may see a couple of drive-throughs before the end of this race, as we still see this battle for P2. The gap starting to extend a little bit between Antonio Reese and Rodemaker up front, up to 1.6. As Soren Garrett's still in tow there. He's just able to hang behind Antonio. And I don't think he's really trying to put pressure on him to make the move. I think he's just kind of riding it out to see if they're going to be able to make up any time on the leader before he goes in and tries to swoop in and make his pass for that position. Oh, as we see a little dust fly up there as Rodemaker comes through Island. So I think maybe a little bit wide coming out of that corner, as we see them working their way through Shell Oil. Coming through there, you see all the camber in that corner, how it just kind of helps you work your way around. They work their way down into this first chicane, as we're on board here with Garrett's. And now we're on board here with Jeff Wupker, as he's working his way through the chicane as well. And then out. Nice line through there, maybe a little bit far on the inside coming out. Might have been off track. That's pretty close though. As we see, Garrett's has made his way around Reese. So Garrett's has taken over P2, and the gap is 2.1 seconds. You see the gap, the time lost as these cars fight each other. I'm going to guess that was a pass going into that second chicane. Garrett's able to make it happen as we see him coming down into that second chicane. We're going to replay here, and that's exactly what happened. Just moves down to the inside, late on the brakes. Antonio says, I'm not even going to fight it. Lets him take the position, but it still cost him about a half second on track to the leader.
Yeah, there's really no point fighting that one there. I mean, if you're gonna fight it, you basically have to come to a stop to go too wide through there, or to try to fight that one. So, definitely a good idea to kind of let that one go for sure. As we see here, the leader just kind of taking off. He's out front now. Those pit stops and everything were really good for him, not so good for the others, and he's able to just kind of take off now. So you just sort of want to maintain here. You can see him really using that slip angle and stuff in this car. So important with this car in almost every corner to get that slip angle going. Gets a little bit more difficult near the end of the race when the tires start to get a little old. They do some kind of unpredictable things every once in a while here. But, as we were saying, it's not easy to, we get about 13x until you get a drive-through. When you get a drive-through, your race is over. It's a 40-second hold. Or sorry, the drive-through is enough on basically every course that you go from first to last, or whatever it might be. So you don't want to get there, and it's easy, very easy to get 13x. That's basically free incidents. So it's something, you want to keep your nose clean out there. 3 incidents and an off track, and that's it. You're done for the day pretty much. So you got to be careful. And 18, and you're actually totally done, which has only happened to me a couple times. It never feels good when it does, unfortunately. We see Tufts here getting a little bit froggy there with, I believe that is, who's that up in front of him? That is Kevin Adrian. Kevin Adrian out in front of him. So Tufts actually done a pretty good job on the recovery drive here to come back. I believe earlier he was in about 15th place or so. He's been able to kind of click some laps off and make some places up. He's only 1 position down from where he started. So not a bad day. If you can make it back to 10th place, I'd say that's a pretty good win. And you're able to kind of recover what it is you lost there. It's always a good thing. Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Too wide in the last corner.
Yep, going down too wide into the last corner as we're going to see Tufts on the outside. Adrian, just see him take the inside curb there. He saw the car jump. Now we're going to get into the last corner here as we're coming down into the lodge. Tufts able to make that pass and get ahead. And I will say, I just go back and look, and his last lap there was an off track involved. Excuse me. But it was like would have been the fastest lap of the race. So he obviously has good pace, and he's making his time up. Just going to be too little, too late. But he's going to try to. He's got his way back up in the top 10. So still going to be a decent points day for Tufts. Obviously, not what he had in mind for the event to be fighting his way back up. You know, he should have been up battling for the potentially for the win here during the race today. But once again, did a good job, and Rodemaker still out front, 2.7 second gap. So even with the pass from Garrett's over Reese, that gap is still growing. So Rodemaker having himself quite a good day here. We do see that he is one of those drivers that potentially is on that cusp of maybe getting to drive through. So you have to be very careful in the last couple of minutes. That would be the tough way to end your race with a drive-through penalty on the last couple of laps, obviously with no way to make that time up. So as we see, Garrett's here still has Reese in tow. So even with the swap for position, Reese hasn't been dropped. He's still running in third, still leading the Masters class over Alan DeGassis, who's running in fifth overall. So still having a really good race. Obviously, Reese has been up there battling for the race win and podiums the last couple of weeks. And just not enough. Seems like every time he goes in for that pit stop, it just seems like the pace kind of drops off for him a little bit. He just can't quite close the deal. As we see Jerome Rodemaker now with the fastest lap of the race with a 143.388. Fantastic lap.
Yeah, great lap there for sure. As we see these two drivers side by side again, not really picking the best places to do their passing here. Always, in the slow spots for some reason there. I'm not sure why. There's much better places to choose to make a pass than that last spot. But hey, they're going to do what they're going to do out there. You're racing, but it looks like it's going to be right down to the wire for these two here. They are kind of contentiously battling, and I think that he's definitely going to keep hounding him there. I think by the looks of it.
It does indeed. This is the white flag lap, so we are on the last lap. Rodemaker out front. The gap between Garrett's and Reese in second and third is 0.3 of a second. That is the closest battle on track. We do have others as well. We're looking on board here with Soren Garrett's and Antonio Reese coming through down into the second chicane. So it'll be on the back half of the lap as Rodemaker's kind of checked out by 3 seconds. So it's going to be, can Antonio Reese find a way around before this lap is concluded? So he's got a good run coming out of that second chicane. We're coming down the straightaway here into the last couple of corners for the lap. And Reese right on his tail. Nothing yet, only 1/10 back as they're working their way around down this little straight here. We're going to come down into the final corner under the walkover and into the last right-hander of Lodge. Looks like Adrian's going to get this. Is Reese going to get the run? And Rodemaker, as you see, is our race winner. And the gap behind is going to be not quite enough for Antonio Reese, only 0.08 of a second. McConnell is going to finish fourth. Alan DeGassis is going to finish fifth. Dan Witzak takes spec 2, finishing in sixth. Sean Doyle finishes ahead of Jay Ray, who finishes ahead of Andrew Herds, and then Daniel Tufts, I believe, is going to get P10 and does indeed.
Yep, able to grab it.
Absolutely. Kevin Adrian finishes in 11th, Juan Garcia in 12th, Paul Jackson 13th, Michael Nelson in 14th, unless something happens here, and we will have to wait for the official results in case we do have anybody that did get that drive-through penalty on the last lap. Obviously, you can't serve it, so it's going to be a 40-second time add-on, but I'm hearing no flags from Guido, so it looks like we're going to have our final finishing position. But a great run by Jerome Rodemaker. Just ran up front all day and secured this race victory. Sean Garrett's in second. Obviously, Antonio Reese finishing third and getting the Masters win.
Yeah, some great driving out there today for sure from Jerome there up front. Able to pretty much commandingly do it in the pit stop there. Really nice quick pit stop. versus the other two drivers. They're not so great in the pits and able to jump out in front there and hold it pretty commandingly to the end. And see if we're gonna get some cars crashing into things here.
Yes, we are.
We're missing a few of our key players here that usually set this up, but here we go. Looks like we've found a berm we can launch off of.
Woo! And he's out of here.
There we go. We hit the physics limit, and we've been taken off the server. Yeah, pretty cool race, though. I love this track. I hate missing it, but if you got to miss it, best place to be is in the booth watching it here. All these drivers out there ripping around, having a really good time on this one. So super great race today, and I think we have some results coming up.
Yep, absolutely. We'll get those results just
actually, we got commercial coming up next, actually.
Most racing drivers don't improve because they don't know exactly what to fix. If you relate to that, this ad is for you. Because I have an online course that solves that. It's called the Motor Race Checklist. 50 structured lessons that show you exactly how to improve your technique. You stop guessing and you start following a professional system. And if you don't improve in 28 days, you get your money back. This is how 11,000 of our student drivers make progress. Now it's your turn.
All right, now we're back from our final commercial break, and let's get our race results here. Get those pulled up. And there we go. Jerome Rodemaker takes the win, I think, first time out, gets the race win. Soren Garrett's finishing in second. Antonio Reese gets the Masters class victory and finishes third overall. Michael McConnell finishes in fourth. Alan DeGassis with the Masters class P2, finishing in fifth. Dan Witzak takes our Spec 2 class win, finishing sixth overall. Sean Doyle in seventh. Jay Ray in eighth. Andrew Hurd's in ninth. Daniel Tufts finishes out the top 10, and we'll go on down. Kevin Adrian finishes in 11th. Juan Garcia in 12th. Paul Jackson 13th and gets P2 in Spec 2. Michael Nelson gets our final step on the podium for Masters in 14th. Philip Fernandez, our final step on the podium for Spec 2 in 15th. Jeff Wubker in 16th. Andrew Love in 17th. Zippy Salmon in 18th. Russ Telker in 19th. Mikey Pollard with early drama finishing in 20th, as well as Ed Buchanan as well involved in that incident, finishing in 21st. And I see we have start getting some drivers into the waiting room here for our post-race interviews. And we're going to let Josh, I'll let you do the interview. Let's bring in our Masters driver, class winner Antonio Reese, in for the interview today.
Sure, I'll grab him here and bring him in. Antonio, pretty good race out there today, man. It looks like this place not an easy one to drive around. You got to kind of keep your nose clean the whole time, but you were able to put some pressure on, almost even able to kind of test for the win there. How did it feel out there for you today?
Hey, good night. I feel pretty good. I didn't expect to have such a good race, so I was thinking to be something worse than whatever it happened to be.
Excellent. Yeah, so we were talking about a few keys to kind of things around here, and one of them being getting that pit stop done, and it looks like you guys got a fairly good pit stop in, able to kind of jump some positions from a few people that didn't there. We were also talking about the debris system out there, so maybe you can comment on those two things here, the pit stops in these races, just how important they are, and then that debris system that seemed to be catching people out. There's a lot of people kind of looping on exit today. Were you feeling that sliding around out there today, or how did it feel?
I was okay with that. The debris, I have no problems with the debris. So I was driving cautiously as well. So probably because of that, I was not taking too much risk. And then on the pits, I decided to pit just almost at the end of the fuel on the tank. And I think he put a little bit more than it should, but not that too much. So my full program was working quite well today.
Excellent, right on. Yeah, I was mentioning, probably one of my Achilles heel in racing the Weekend Warriors so far has been my pit stops. I always just take too much fuel or not enough fuel or whatever it might be. So, make sure you execute those ones well, and you were able to do that today and come out with a really good result here on the podium for Masters podium overall and a win in Masters. Pretty good stuff there, Antonio. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, thank you. For you guys for the broadcast. you, Joshua, and Guido, and whoever is there. And for the
Charles is here today. Charles is with us today.
yeah, and the sponsors for the Suelio Almeida as well, and first and most important for Steve Ray, the father of the league, the very good friend Steve Ray, and for the drivers, because without the drivers we cannot race. So all the drivers and for the viewers, the YouTube viewers. Hey guys, have a good time with us.
Excellent, right on. So I believe we're headed to, I think it's Thruxton, the next race, and then it's Donington after that. Are those two tracks you're looking forward to, or not so much?
Somehow, yes. Yeah, I could say okay. I'm okay with those tracks. Not too. Thruxton is a little bit more tricky, but yeah, we will see.
Okay,
Just
cool.
a
Yeah, I've
finger
never
cross.
actually been at Thruxton, so I like Donington, but I've never been to Thruxton. Hopefully, I'll have a chance to try that one out next week.
Yeah.
But great win today, Antonio, and we'll catch you next week, man.
Thank you, Joshua. Yeah, all guys. Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Antonio Reese.
Interviews
yeah,
here.
that was it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's all the interviewers we have for today. That was Antonio Reese, our Masters class winner and third place overall. So, Josh, you mentioned it a minute ago, talking with Antonio. Thruxton next week. I was hoping to get some good insight from you on that track, but apparently you're kind of like in the same boat as me, and you don't really know anything about it.
No, not really. I watched the race last year. It looks very wide open, very flat and wide open, and going to be a bit of an interesting one. I think it's a bit of a draft fest, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to Donington after that. One of my favorite tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, that's what we have looking forward to for next week is Thruxton for the Formula 4s. Coming up in about an hour or so, we do have our second race of our Super Sunday, which is the Spec Racer Fords, and we will be at Phoenix Road Course. So that'll be an interesting. The little Phoenix Roval we have is always going to make for some really interesting racing. Once again, I think these smaller tracks that we have with that are not quite well known, little used, always bring in a little bit of a joker to the race, so to speak. So looking forward to that as well. So we're going to wrap this up for today. Once again, this is Formula 4, the Weekend Warriors edition. I have been Charles Boshell along with Josh Wilkie and Father Guido Marzucchi, and we will see you in about an hour, or otherwise we'll see you next week. Have a great day.